Welcome in to the Rock Talk Studio, where I find you that next great rock and roll book or documentary to check out. This is the podcast that reviews, previews, and most importantly, recommends to you the good stuff. I'm your host, Big Rick. Let's plug in. And today the spotlight falls on the documentary Billy Joel, and so it goes. Billy Joel wasn't cool until he was. And now with this documentary, people are finally getting to see the whole story, and they're getting to see why that cool comment just might be an understatement. Susan Lacy and Jessica Levins put together this documentary. Lacy is the creator of PBS's American Masters. That show's been running for 40 years, and this documentary is not flashy, but it's one that covers a ton of ground. The documentary runs 5 hours, and it's split in 2 parts, each running 2.5 hours, and it doesn't follow any kind of a straight line, but what it does is it gives you everything you need to know about Billy Joel, and there is a ton to uncover. In a lot of ways, it felt like it was pushing back on people who think that Billy Joel's not really cool, especially the critics during his music production years. A fair amount of time is dealing with Billy and how he was just bucked the critics, being pissed off and acting out and just being upset. And Joel admits it in the documentary. He confesses, he reflects, he takes a look at how he acted, and he admits to being vengeful, he admits to being drunk, and more than a few times, just straight lost. And that is something I enjoyed about this documentary, is the participation of Billy Joel throughout the whole doc. There's no narrator. It's pretty much just looking at Billy Joel's life through Billy Joel's comments. His challenges with alcohol through most of his life left a lot of damage, and Joel fesses up to it. It's pretty crazy that all 4 of his wives participate in this. That's, to me, another really strong point here. The inclusion of people throughout his life that might not have been on the best of terms with, or people that he just straight did wrong, all spoke about him. And now, with plenty of time to reflect, most of them seemed healed with Billy and their relationship. The women in Billy Joel's life got a lot of screen time in this, and after watching this doc, you can understand why. It gives you a pretty good taste of how Billy Joel came up with most of his songs, and most of them were inspired by the women he was in with relationships at that time. Especially his first wife, Elizabeth Weber. She was someone that I think didn't get a lot of press in Billy's life, and I think that was partially due to his second marriage to Christie Brinkley. And, she was hugely famous. They kind of just glossed over the fact that he had a marriage before that. But I really enjoyed the parts about Weber. One of the reasons to me was she was kind of an unknown, and she played a major part in Joel's career once she took over as his manager. She was a huge part of his success. She was not only his manager, she was his muse and sometimes his target. But she kept Joel and the band in line. She stood up to the mostly male recording executives and pretty much secured the business side of Billy Joel's early career. And that was peak Joel. I mean, he was on top of the world. He was on top of the charts. And just like most rock and roll stories, you can only live like that for so long. Sooner or later, a wheel's going to fall off, or maybe 2. And especially if you're husband and wife. I mean, good luck. Walker was one of the main focal points in the first part of the doc, and the first part of the doc actually ends with their divorce. Critics have always had a really hard time with Billy Joel, and they would write some pretty scathing reviews as shown in the documentary. But what did they miss? Well, if you ask Bruce Springsteen, Paul McCartney, Pink, Sting, Nas, Garth Brooks, Jackson Browne, and Itzhak Perlman, all of them who are included in the documentary, it would be the structure and the melody. Especially the melody. I swear after watching this documentary with my wife, we were humming Billy Joel songs for the next couple of weeks. Joel is just one of the all-time great songwriters, and this documentary really shows you why. And all this great talent that were interviewed pretty much confirmed it. And I think another thing this doc shows is that Joel is just way more complex than the critics gave him credit for. Great quote from Howard Stern, pretty much nails it. He says, Billy Joel's story is way deeper psychologically than Billy wants to know. One more point that I enjoyed about the music side of things, I always lean towards the creative process parts. I love seeing the behind the curtain of songs and how they're structured, how they come about. And with this one, Joel points out that his music was heavily shaped by classical music. And I've never heard this angle discussed anywhere, where most of the rest of rock and roll draws on the blues in this country. His work is powered heavily by European classical. He even gives a crazy example of how Uptown Girl could be seen as a Mozart piece. Think of this doc as a timeline with detours. It goes album by album, and then it just flashes back to the formative moments that have shaped Joel's music and his life. And a lot of depth of these 5 hours is with the time spent exploring his personal relationships. I mentioned his wife's, but his father also gets a big part in his life and his story here, and also his grandparents who survived Nazi Germany. I have to admit, I think 5 hours was a bit much. Though I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it a lot, it was just a little bit too much as far as 5 hours go. It was great to take that slow and very detailed walk through Joel's life. And disclaimer, I grew up back east. Billy Joel is part of the fabric of my childhood. My brother and I would go see him live and caught him during those peak years and peak shows, the Turnstile Tour, then Glass House's Nylon Curtain and Innocent Man Tour. But I think this is more than just a fan celebration. Casual fan, or even if you're not the biggest Billy Joel fan, I think you're going to be treated to a well put together documentary here. It's expansive. It's thoughtful. It's a really deep profile of Billy Joel's life. And it really leaves you with an appreciation and an answer to why these songs have resonated with so many people for so long. Billy Joel and So It Goes, the documentary, is directed by Susan Lacey and Jessica Levins, and could just land in the top 5 documentaries released so far this year. Let's take a look at that. Did this documentary get into the top 5? I'm going to take a look at it after the break because I've got to tell you about something. It's a new giveaway, and it's from the Outlaw Music Festival. Today's episode is sponsored by the Outlaw Music Festival, the 10th anniversary branded merchandise of the Outlaw Festival. Really cool merchandise. You've got to check this out. There's a really interesting kind of nature motif to the merchandise, to the t-shirts and the hoodies. Very interesting style. And what is really cool about this is the Outlaw Music Festival has given me 3 pieces of merch to give away to 3 of my listeners. 3 of you are going to get a chance to win this. All you have to do to win is send me an email at info@rocktalkstudio.com. I'm going to put that into the show notes, my email address. Someone asked me the other day, what are show notes? The show notes are talking about the episode, whether you're looking at Spotify or Apple Podcasts, there's always some mention, a few sentences about the podcast. You'll see that in whatever directory you use. Check out those show notes. There's the email address in there. Anybody who subscribes to my newsletter, the Rock Talk Studio Blast, is automatically entered into the drawing for the merchandise. So go over to outlawmusicfestival.com. Check out what they've got. Check out those hoodies. Check out those t-shirts, those hats. You just might be repping that soon. Okay, let's jump in and take a look if the Billy Joel documentary cracked the top 5 of documentaries this year. I do a running list of top 5 books, top 5 docs that go throughout the year, kind of like a power rankings. And it changes every month as new stuff comes in, and I reshuffle the deck. Billy Joel's documentary, And So It Goes, is definitely in the top 5. I will tell you that. It is that kind of a documentary. Worth being in the top 5, worth something checking out. I highly recommend this one. Which documentary got booted off the top 5? That you got to check out the Rock Talk Studio Blast to find out. It's in the next newsletter. You'll know who got popped out and where Billy Joel's documentary ranks in the top 5. If you want to get subscribed to the Rock Talk Studio Blast, it's a free newsletter. Comes out once a month, the last Friday of the month. Same thing. Just send me an email at info@rocktalkstudio.com and say, Big Rick, send me over that blast, and I'll hook you up. Coming up next week, it's a book about one of the biggest rock and roll albums created in the 70s. It's an absolute classic that was made by an artist that was just about to be dropped from the record label if he didn't produce a hit single. And oh, did he produce a hit single? All that coming up next week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love talking rock and roll with you. Hey, go over to the Outlaw Music Festival and check out that gear. I guarantee you're going to see some really cool stuff. All right, let's tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. I'll catch you next time in the Rock Talk studio.